So good morning, dear students. So from today onwards, we are going to start the tutorial on MS SQL Server 2019. All right. So here we have a legal paper from Microsoft about SQL Server 2019, which will guide us towards the various features and applications of SQL Server 2019. All right. So it will be a brief session of around 30 minutes, which will take us into the world of database systems, rather RDBMSs, and then gradually we will enter into the query world, where we will be working, we will be playing with the scripts, rather you can say the backend scripts, the database scripts which are required to perform technical uh, query management. Like in nowadays, a common term is a database connectivity, which is involved in all the front end based systems where you are going to create some projects or some interactive applications or websites. So this SQL Server is nothing but it is like the conventional database management systems like Oracle, MS Access, Fox Pro, which has now been obsolete. Then we have Sybase, Ingres, DB2. So all these are a kind of DBMS and RDBMSs. So apart from all those things, we will be focusing on the SQL Server, which has been released as SQL Server 2019. Although the working nature of all the RDBMSs are same, the query processing system of all the RDBMSs or DBMSs are same, but every version of any database system gives some advantages, some features, some new features as per the requirement of current industry, current world, current scenario. All right. So here, let's go through this. So this 24 pages, these 24 pages are actually released by Microsoft, which we need to undergo before starting SQL Server. All right. So let's see what are the things that we need to cover up in this 24 slides or 24 pages. So here we will be focusing on data virtualization, then the platform flexibility in data state, then we have the enhanced polybase, which is the query over any type of data, or you can say a generalized query. What can we say? A generalized query. Fine. So what we need to do, we need to just focus on all these things so that we can have good knowledge over database systems. All right. So let's start a few things. See, this is a summarized way where the SQL Server lies. So what does it say? Microsoft SQL Server 2019 will power your organization or you as individual by providing a data hub. Now, what is data hub? Data hub means collection of information, collection of facts belonging to different domains. Now, these data can be accessed or they are accessible by various means. Now, if they are accessible, then they might have been stored somewhere in some format, some manner. So here it says, so it will provide you a data hub that you can use to access structured and unstructured data sources from across your entire data state through a consistent interface. Now here comes a term, consistent interface. What is consistent interface? So it is, or it will provide you the mechanism or the UI. We nowadays we call UI, means the user interface, the front end from where we interact with the system. It may be an application, it may be a website. Okay, so for query management, we have different types of query editors available. It depends upon the vendor how they are shipping their database systems. Now, the relational database engine scales to petabytes of data, and enhancements to Polybase allow you to process diverse data and relational data sources using the TSQL from SQL Server. Now here we have a term called transact SQL. Now what is transact SQL? Later on we will come to know in detail about this transact SQL statement. But as of now, we have to understand that these TSQL statements are basically the commands that are passed to the database server, rather the SQL server, to perform different operations. They may be in the form of DDL operations, the DML operations, or the command operations like permission based queries, or you can use it for retrieval of data on various criteria. That is basically under the DQL statements or commands. All right. So when the implementation of such database system is discussed, we can see that the SQL server can be enforced or can lie or can be deployed over various platforms like Linux in Docker containers, Apache Spark, Hadoop ecosystems, and rapidly forming industry conscious on Kubernetes. You might have been knowing or you might have heard about Kubernetes, which acts as container in the cloud. All right. So here, what now? We will not read the entire things line by line. We need to understand the things. So as of now, you might have understood that this SQL server will mainly focus on the storage of data, and it will help us to create or to form a big data store where we can manage our data in either a standalone manner or as a distributed factor. Okay, so right from the beginning, right from 10th grade, 11th or 12th, students are being taught about the DBMS systems, RDBMS systems in the form of the simplest form like Excel, MS Excel to MS Access, and as 11th or 12th grade, the students are introduced to the RDBMS systems like SQL Server and Oracle. So here now we will be closely looking at this SQL Server. Now moving further, moving further, here we can see that here the SQL Server 2019 database engine supports an even wider choice of platforms and programming languages, which includes support for third-party language runtimes. This means when you work or when you manage data using SQL Server, you have a large number of options to work with different programming languages like Java, any of the languages supported in .NET. It may be Python, ASP, JSP. Okay, so you will get a wide range of languages which will support or which will help you to perform data management. Next, the next paragraph says this one: SQL Server remains the only commercial database with AI built in. Means this AI feature is somehow called the intelligence features provided by the various languages. In case of Microsoft, you might have seen in case of Visual Studio, you have an intelligence feature which predicts the terms you have used recently or within your application, within your current file, or the things which have already been pre-installed or programmed in the environment. So you can see that by pressing the control and space bar, you can see the predictive words too as well. So we can say the SQL Server database supports AI feature. It has a built-in support for AI features, even for ML, that is machine learning. All right, good. Now here, this one. SQL Server 2019 builds on previous versions of SQL Server, which are industry leaders in performance and security. It has been a leader in the TPC-E and TPC-H benchmarks for the last 5 years and the least vulnerable database during the last 8 years. So you can imagine it has crossed the benchmarks on quality tests. It has also crossed the benchmark on security. So it has been declared, it has been rated the least vulnerable database systems in the last 8 years. You can say in the last decade. So it is safe to use as compared to other database systems. Now it offers better performance than ever before and new features to help manage data security and compliance. So here the SQL Server, as said, has been built upon the existing versions of SQL Server. Means before SQL Server 2019, we had SQL Server 2016, 2014, 12, 10, 8. So all the versions are equally compatible with the current version, with some added features. Now what are those features that we will go through gradually in this session? So first, as per the industry scenario, we will look at data virtualization. Now what is data virtualization? In the recent past, the term cloud has evolved a lot. So it has been on everyone's mind that cloud is something which helps us to lighten our pocket, to lighten our bags in terms of volume of data, in terms of storage area, because the information which has been stored over cloud is readily available to everyone worldwide. The only thing you need to have is a compatible device that will connect you to the cloud, like a laptop, a desktop, a smartphone equipped with a good internet connection. All right. So you need not worry about the storage mechanism. You need not worry about the storage area available on your disk, on your hard disk, on your smartphone. You only need to have a space over the cloud. In common words, we can say on the internet. All right. So even if you create an email ID in Google, it will give you around 15 GB of storage space. Now you can imagine it does not occupy 15 GB space of your system, your laptop, your desktop, your smartphone. And if you are not accessing your laptop, you can access your data via your smartphone anywhere and everywhere, because the storage has been equipped over internet, over the cloud, and it can be accessed by the credentials provided to you by the cloud system. Right? So data virtualization means we have to manage data, we have to store data, we have to retrieve data, we have to update data over the cloud, where the physical storage system is or may not be an issue. So let's go through the legal paper released from Microsoft. What does it say? Now, recognizing that different storage technologies are more appropriate for different types of data, a modern enterprise is likely to have a data stored in a mixture of relational and non-relational data stores. So see, here it is talking about a data store. Now, where will be a data store? It may be on a physical system, it may be on a virtual system. Again, if you are talking about virtual system, it will be only cloud. And if you talk about physical systems, it may be your data servers available in your organization. It may be a desktop system, it may be a laptop, it may be a smartphone available to you. Okay. Now, coming to the format of data, it's talking about a mixture of data, like the relational data and the non-relational data. Now, what is relational and non-relational data? So, relational data means that you have multiple informations which are related to each other, like the record of a student, the information regarding a particular movie. All right, all these are related facts or related information which comes under relational data. Whereas in case of non-relational data, you only talk about storing the facts, storing the information, which may be anything. You can store the facts of a book, a movie, or a person at a common place, which will be considered as non-relational data. It will be just like a container to store some informations. Now, often from several different vendors which may be available in the market to distribute the information format. Now, a challenge for developers, the data scientists and business analysts is that to extract business value from this data, they typically need to combine data from disparate sources. They typically do this by bringing all the relevant data from the source systems together on a single platform. Now, it is a common fact. Now, many of you who are watching or who will watch will imagine of storing information by creating some databases, tables, and storing details of about an employee or a student or any other. Now, what you will do, as per your requirement, you will extract the data by passing the required query. Suppose you want to access information about an employee who has been paid the highest salary for the month. So your query will be somehow different from a person who is trying to access the data of an employee who has withdrawn the lowest salary. So it depends upon the requirement of a user, of a person or an organization, as well as the type of value, the type of data to be extracted. So here we have different categories of users or programmers or developers in the form of, so already we have seen, so they are in the form of developers, they are scientists, they are analysts. So as per their requirement, they will pass on their queries. The queries will get executed within the database system, or a broader version of a database system, which you can call as a data warehouse. All right. So when a business analyst, when a data scientist accesses or retrieves information, it is not only from the database but also from a data warehouse. Now later on we will come across all these points, what is a database and what is a data warehouse. All right, so we are here to only discuss the importance, then discuss the use, the applications, the features of SQL Server 2019. All right, yeah, from next session onwards, assuming the next day tomorrow, we will enter into core SQL Server or the DBMS systems. Now again, moving forward, in traditional business intelligence systems, copies of data are created and loaded into a reporting platform which extracts, transforms, and then loads the processes. Reporting and analysis is carried out on the copies. Now here you can see, so the database system, first what it does, it clones, rather it copies, it makes a replica of the existing data, then performs their operations on those replicas, those copies. To, why does they do so? To keep the original data safe and consistent. So we will come across all these things when we will move into the query management, transaction processing. So it is a bit far away as of now. All right. So here you need to remember the terms ETL, because frequently you will come across all these things. So what is ETL? It is a mechanism where a copy of data is made for analysis purpose, where data is first extracted, it is transformed into the required format, and then it is loaded for processing. All right. Okay, moving further. So here we have a preview of SQL Server 2019. Now what are the things? The first point says expensive to develop, maintain and support. So when it is expensive to do so, in cases where, suppose if they are to be repeatable and robust, the extract, transform and load processes require efforts to create, efforts to keep them up to date, and efforts to keep them running. Means if you need to have a robust, if you need to have a consistent database systems, then it will cost you more. It may be an expensive one. Why expensive one? Because you need to give efforts in creating the ETL processes. You need to give efforts to keep the database systems up to date. And most important, you need to have a proper maintenance of the database system so that it does not enters into a situation where the database system crashes, where the database server rather crashes, and you are deprived of the information. Next, the second point says slow. Slow means the ETL process introduces an inherent delay. Why slower process? Because it will first copy the original data into a clone or a copy format where the ETL process will be introduced. Okay. So here, see, there has been a study. More than 80% of data sets delivered by the ETL process is between 2 to 7 days old by the time it reaches an analytical system. So before you extract the data and send it for analytical purpose, for data analysis, it becomes around 1 week older. Means you have many new informations within the period where when you started the data analysis and the period when you will complete your analysis on a given data set or a given data range, because the ETL process is a bit slower process. So we are not talking about one data, two data, means assuming the common SDLC phase, LOC, lines of codes, means 1000 lines of code, kilo lines of code basically. So here you have huge volume of records, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 10 lakh, it may be more than that. All right, that's why it takes time. Next, 75% of businesses reported that delays in data processing had inhibited business opportunities. Okay, so definitely when you have slower analysis, your business will get affected. Next, the next hindrance is must be secured. So each copy of data set must be secured against unauthorized access, especially if the data set contains personally identifying information, which has been noted as PII, personally identifying informations. Nowadays commonly your credit card information, your debit card information, your security system, passwords, okay, all these are the personal identifying informations. So all these things needs to be secured the most. Then the last point that we have is it requires storage. So each copy of data set requires a disk space to store. Now, these costs grow if the data set is very large or is occupied or it is copied many times. Copied means redundancy. Redundancy means you have duplicacy of data, where this DBMS system, these RDBMS systems will give you a concept called data normalization, where you will remove the redundant data, the duplicate data, where you will store the data as per the given rule of DBMS systems, generally called the normalization theory, in the form of 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, 4NF, and many more. All right. So what may be the solution to the problem which leads you to 2 to 7 days, means a week of delayed analysis? So here an alternative to this ETL is data virtualization. You need to virtualize the data. You need to generalize the data somewhere so that it can be readily available, easily available, and the data analysis can be a faster process. All right. So yeah, what is data virtualization? Actually, data virtualization is a mechanism which integrates data from various sources, various locations, and in various formats without replicating or moving the data to create a single virtual data layer that delivers unified data. All right. So what we need to do during the data virtualization, we will have information from various sources, various locations, where various geographical areas, and in different formats like structured, unstructured. Then we have what do you say? Pictorial form, data in pictorial formats. All right. Data in different encoding schemes like UTF-18, sorry, not 18, UTF-16, Unicode. All right, these are the different encoding schemes. Then we have the virtual data layer. What is a virtual data layer? The data hub or data lake. Now these terms have been evolved. Prior to these, prior to the introduction of database systems like SQL Server 2005, we term all these things as domain of values, pool of values. So they have been given a name as per the use, as per the implications, as data hub or data lake. Now from where they allows users to query data from many sources through a consistent interface, like the interfaces which help you to pass on the TSQL statements or the TSQL commands, like the query editors, which will be discussed in later sessions. All right. So here the diagram, we can see we have a data movement in the form of ETL processes where the original data is getting copied or moved into a new system for analysis purpose. In case of data virtualization, we have the database server which can integrate data from various sources, like we have Cosmos, we have Mongo databases, we have Oracle systems, the Hadoop file systems, then DB2 systems. So these are discrete sources of data that may be available located at different geographical regions. So this SQL server integrates data from all these places at a single place, nowadays commonly known as Azure. Okay. So this was a concept behind the data virtualization. Now, we will shorten this session. We will keep this session to this extent only. In the next session, we will continue with the platform flexibility in the data estate and many more things. So, in the coming days, today and tomorrow, we will have only introduction, benefits, new features about SQL Server 2019, and later on we will uh, be entering into a state of implementing the various operations, the DDL, DML, DQL, DCL, or transactions, or what you say isolation levels during the query processing. So the first 2 to 3 days will be a kind of a theory, but it will be interesting. You will come to know the various features of a database systems, which will be much more different from the cases where you might have studied in your curriculum, in your subjects, in your graduations or post graduations. All right, so that's all for now. We will again meet in the next session. So till then, you get a brief recap on what we have discussed here, and we will meet again in few moments. All right, thank you.